Morning you guys, it's Karen and I'm here to give you my tips and tricks for dealing with a new puppy. This is from my experience. Watson is now 3 years old and I feel like it's only in the last year that I have learnt a huge amount about dogs, and I know now if I got a puppy again exactly what I would do. And so hopefully these things will help you in your journey, especially if you are a new dog owner. The first thing I would say before puppy comes home is to move everything to above waist height if you can. Things that you do not want chewed, things that you do not want destroyed, then move them, because every puppy chews, and that's one of the biggest reasons that people get frustrated. And I know that even I met somebody on a walk that had a puppy, and the puppy had torn up the sofa and shoes and slippers and papers and all sorts. So move everything you can above waist height. Invest in a non-chew spray, so you can buy like bitter apple sprays and things, and maybe spray it on the base of furniture that you definitely do not want chewed. And also lie down in as many rooms as the dog's going to be allowed in and have a look around for hazards. So remember, the puppy is going to be able to go under tables and get in places that you just won't be able to get to, and you need to check and make sure that the cables are far away enough and that there aren't things about that could be hazardous or could be chewed. That was actually a piece of advice we were given before getting Watson, and we did lay on the floor, and it's very interesting to see things from your puppy's point of view. Next, I would say be prepared to do things differently than you planned, and don't get yourself too worried about, should we be using a crate? Will puppy pads work? Should they be sleeping in our room the first night or thereafter? Because puppies have their own little personality, and your feelings will also change when they're actually in your life. We had discussed that we would not have Watson on the sofa or the bed, and that for the first night he would sleep in another room in a crate, and we would just ignore the crying. But when you actually have them there, and we have seen him shaking earlier in the evening and then could hear him screaming, and you remember that they are away from their family, they're in a strange place and they're scared, we moved the crate into the bedroom. My husband would just put his hand on the crate and Watson would be quiet, and so that obviously was a comfort to him. It didn't go on very long. We kept him in the room and then we slowly edged him out, and it's never been an issue at all. Watson is now allowed on the bed, although he doesn't sleep there at night. He doesn't even sleep in our room. He sleeps in one of his beds or by the window or wherever he fancies. He's allowed on the sofa. You know, all of the things that we had decided went out the window because we're all human beings and you get them and you feel for them, and things just change. But also the puppy will have a personality that you will never be able to know until you get him. And so things like, we had planned to use puppy pads, but we put puppy pads into his crate. We threw Chicken in, he went in, he loved his crate, but he hated the puppy pads. And not once in the whole toilet training process did Watson use a puppy pad. He would, if we put them in his crate or in his playpen, he would take them out and tear them to shreds. Isn't it? Oh, he's destroying it.
Look at the guy that he'll be going up against today, Aaron Rodgers.
What's been going on in here, huh? What's been going on in here? Watson, look at me. Like he was angry that we even thought he would use a puppy pad. We had intended for him to be in a playpen with a crate inside when I was working from home, and then if I left the house he was going to go in his crate. That didn't work out that way because he had huge separation anxiety and didn't like the crate. He was actually biting it, which is very bad for them and very dangerous, and it ended up he was better in the kitchen, and we bought a security gate. So, like I said, don't worry too much about the decisions on what you're going to do, because it could all change and you need to see exactly what your puppy is like. Be prepared for them to turn your world upside down is what I would say, because I'll never forget on about the third night of having puppy, we both had been awake at night. We did take him out in the middle of the night, which people say you shouldn't do for toilet training, but again, he doesn't get up in the middle of the night now, so it worked fine for us. But we were so tired, it was such hard work, and my husband had a shower and he said, right, I'll have a shower, you look after him, then we'll swap, then we'll get some dinner, you know. And he came through and he said, I just had a shower. He said, and I'm so tired, I can't even remember if I washed or not. I'll never forget that. Okay, next I would say to buy Simple Solutions spray. It is a green bottle about yay big. I've just run out of one and thrown it away, so I can't show you, but it's called Simple Solutions. It is a biological solution for any accident. So if your dog does have an accident of any kind on any carpets or any floors, you can actually get one for hard floors and one for carpets. We did have the two in the beginning. There will be accidents. You need to accept that it's never going to be perfect. The dog will have accidents until the time that it's potty trained. And so if you use this Simple Solutions, because it's biological, you spray it, leave it, and then soak it up with a kitchen roll, it means that they shouldn't keep going back to that same spot. But you do have to saturate it, and it takes away that kind of vicious cycle you can get into where they keep weeing in the same place. To get the best result from potty training, you literally just have to go outside every 40 minutes after they've slept, after they've eaten, after they've had a drink, after they've had a play. Just spend your first couple of weeks constantly outside and go crazy when they actually do have a wee or anything outside. Something that I learned a bit too late, but you can, if they are having a wee, you can interrupt them. If you see them bending down to have a wee, you can grab hold of them and say no and run them outside and put them down. And the fright of being picked up actually stops the flow of wee, and you can sometimes catch it before it happens. But with, you know, if they're having a poop, there's nothing you can do about it. You just need to let them do it. Don't tell them off, just completely ignore it, scoop it up, act like it never happened. And then the next time they have a poop outside, big party, lots of treats, well done, etc. Next, I would say make sure you join Facebook forums. Now, maybe Facebook isn't for you. You could use Instagram, you could use Twitter. But the great thing about Facebook forums is there are so many dog groups. So if you're getting a Schnauzer, there's a Schnauzer group, there's a Cockapoo group, there's so many Labradoodle groups and Australian Labradoodle groups, and whatever breed of dog you've got, or there's even a black dogs group. They are great places for any questions you do have. So you might say, when did everybody stop feeding their dog puppy food? Or what food is best to feed the dog? You put it up there, and if you've joined a group with a lot of members, there's normally thousands, you'll get a lot of answers and a lot of advice from people who have been in the same position as you. We didn't actually join the forums until we got Watson, but I can't tell you the number of times I've posted on forums and said, Watson's doing this. Anybody else had that experience? And you'll get so many people telling you exactly what happened for them. I would say to get a clicker for training, because I've done a whole video on clicker training that I'll link for you. But clicker training means they will learn quicker and it will sink in more. And so you could even use the clicker, you can take it out with you and click as soon as they do their business outside. And the other piece of advice that I was given, which has been really, really useful about training, is completely ignore the bad and celebrate the good. And so any behavior that you don't want, if your dog is jumping up at you, then you just put your hands up, look away, don't speak, don't look at them, and completely ignore them, and that in general makes the behavior disappear. And then if they are jumping up, for example, as soon as the paws are on the floor, yay, give them lots of fuss, bend down to their level. Biting is something else that puppies do, and again, ignore. I mean, we would just say no and close our fists and look away, and then he very quickly got bored with the biting. So ignore the bad, celebrate the good. By celebrating the good as well, it means that if your puppy at any point is just lying still, looking about or playing with a toy, randomly go and give them a treat and say, congratulations, well done, you're quiet, you know. So you are rewarding the behavior that you want. You want your puppy to be resting and playing with a toy, and he's playing with a toy, he's not chewing something of yours, and he's not barking, and so you go and reward that behavior. It's at times when you wouldn't necessarily think about it. So I still do it now with Watson behind the curtain. Talking of the devil. But when he's been quiet all morning, I will go through and go, good boy, quiet. And it was a really useful tip. Okay, next, more about training. But I would say, if at all possible, don't let your dog shadow you, because if you do, it would make separation much, much more difficult. And you need to start the separation training immediately. You know, step outside the room, come back in again. But most, especially Labradoodles, but most puppies will be shadowing you and following you everywhere you go. If you start off maybe have a couple of days where they do that so that you can enjoy it. But if you start off training them not to do that, they will be much more independent and much happier on their own. But the added bonus is it will tire them out. You will make them tired by training them not to shadow you, because that will be their natural instinct. And so all you do is you need to teach them a sit and stay, and then leave the room, go into the kitchen, come back into the living room, for example, and then reward them for not barking. You may start off, you may only be able to step out of the living room and back in again. And if they're quiet, reward them. If they're not, step back one step and step forward and reward them for not barking. And you know, you need to start at whatever level they are at and take it very slowly. But I would say start off not letting them shadow you. Again, this is something I wish I had done. I now have baths with company because Watson, he's been so used to being in the bathroom with me and getting a treat that I have never broken that. I could break it and I could just shut the door. But it's not something that bothers me too much, but it could be a problem if you want to have a nice peaceful bath. Impulse control is something else that I think is great to train your puppy on from the very beginning, because it will make your life easier, and because of the added bonus of it wearing them out, because the more they have to use their brain and the more they have to just sit and wait and control themselves and not jump and not bark and not lunge, that's so difficult for them that it will tire them out and they will sleep for a long time afterwards. So impulse control can be them not taking a treat if it's dropped on the floor, not getting to their dinner bowl without you making them sit and wait until you've put the dinner bowl down, and then you say, okay, their release word, and they go to eat their dinner. Where I wish I'd done it sooner is with the door. When the door goes, Watson would bomb down the hallway and charge at whoever was at the door. And because I was a new dog owner, I didn't really know how to handle that. But I later learned impulse control with him. And so I would I recorded the sound of the doorbell and I would play it and then say to him, stand in front of him, block him and say, in your bed, and make him go in his bed. And he would be whining and jumping, and it took a long time. But it always tired him out, and it eventually has meant that the doorbell goes and he runs and jumps in his bed. I don't even need to tell him now, and he just jumps and sits there until I tell him it's okay to come and say hello to whoever it is, or to leave his spot. And I think impulse training is just going to make your life easier when the dog is older. You're going to have a really well-behaved dog. You're not going to have problems with them jumping and lunging at people, or, you know, getting to the door when you don't want them to, and you'll tire them out. So it's a win-win all round. The final thing on training is I truly believe that the bell training that we did with Watson for toilet training has been one of the best things we've ever done. Ring the bell. You want to go out? Good boy. Good boy. That's a good boy. Because he's had such bad colitis that there have been times when he's needed to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and he has been able to ring the bell and let us know. And it's happened probably 4 times in the 3 years that we've had him. But there was one time when we had closed the kitchen gate and he wasn't able to get to the bell, and he did have an accident in Kev's study. And the vet was telling us that dogs feel terrible when they have accidents. Once they've been potty trained, they feel terrible when they have accidents. And so I'm so happy that he can now ring that bell and let us know that he needs to go out, and it's a really useful thing to do. I have got a video on how I trained Watson, but it's kind of a video I want to redo, but it's difficult because obviously he's not a puppy anymore. But I will try and redo it. All you need to do is lift them up, put the bell on the wall, lift them up, hit the bell, say well done, and open the door and give them a treat. And they then learn very quickly, if I touch this bell, I get a treat and the door opens. And then you can then reward them for going out and having a wee. You have to make sure that you don't let them run around the garden and play, otherwise they'll just ring the bell to have a play. But I talk about that in depth in that video, but I would highly recommend it. Okay, next I would say make a plan for what you are going to do and what everybody is going to do regarding biting, regarding jumping, regarding scraps from the table. You all need to be on the same page, because if you're not, as a family, it will just be a disaster, because dogs need consistency. And if one person in the family is given scraps from the table, you will always have a dog that is sitting waiting for food. And this is another area where you can teach impulse control by getting the dog to go to his bed at dinner time. And we send Watson to bed with a Kong at dinner time, but that's a great impulse training opportunity. But if one person has at any point given them scraps from the table, it will be very, very difficult to train, because in their head, well, they just need to wait and persist and they will get something. Same with biting. If anybody doesn't do the same thing with biting, they'll get confused. If some people let them jump up but others don't, they're never going to get the message. So make sure that you have perhaps a family meeting before the puppy arrives and said, what are we all doing for jumping? What are we all doing if the dog bites? What are we all doing if the dog's sitting staring at us? You know, make sure you've got a few things in place so everybody knows what they're doing. The final thing on training is try to use clear words. And hopefully just by me saying this, you'll become aware of what you're saying. But I have seen a friend that had a puppy trying to train the puppy to come, to leave things that she didn't want her to eat. And it would be, no, don't do that, leave it, come on now, you don't want to eat that, that's not nice, no, don't do that, don't do that, I don't want you to do that. And there's no clear words there. When you're training a dog, it needs to be very, very clear. Leave it, and that's it. Leave it, not, don't touch that, that's nasty, I don't want you to eat that, you'll get a sore tummy. You know, these things are not going to help train a dog. So just be aware that you're using the same words. It's something that Kev and I, my husband, had to chat about a lot, because he would say good lad and I'd say good boy, and it's like, well, we've got to choose which one we're saying. For lie down, he would say down, I would say lie down. You need to be saying the same things and it needs to be very, very clear. The final thing is, I believe, one of the most important things to do with a puppy that not many people do, and that is the 100 things. It's not necessarily exactly 100 things, but if you do at least these 100 things, you will have a much more well-behaved, confident dog when he is fully grown, he or she is fully grown. And the 100 things is a socialization. It's an adventure. It's really good fun, actually, but you only have a very small window to do the socialization in. If you have gone to a reputable breeder, you won't get your puppy under 8 weeks. We got Watson when he was 9.5 weeks, simply because of arranging a time to pick him up. But the socialization window closes anytime from 12 to 16 weeks, dependent on the dog. So if you imagine, we got Watson when he was 9.5 weeks, that would only give us 2.5 weeks to complete the socialization, the 100 things on the socialization list, because the window could close. And the window is a neurological window, and it means that if Watson is not exposed, for example, to loud bangs before 12 to 16 weeks, and I would always say 12 weeks because you don't know what their window is, he could then be frightened of fireworks when he's older. Whereas if you can do as much of these 100 things before they turn 12 weeks, and don't stop at 12 weeks if you haven't managed them, keep on until the 16-week period, you've got more chance of a dog that isn't scared of anything. And Watson is pretty much not scared of anything. People have commented on, you know, they've seen him with a balloon and he popped it. He sits in the garden and watches the fireworks. He's really just curious about new things. He's not in any way anxious. And even at our recent scenting class, the lady would say he's going to be anxious because dogs don't like going under chairs. But he wasn't anxious. And she said he's going to be anxious because he's going under a table. He wasn't anxious. You know, all the things that she thought he would be anxious about, he was just interested in. And I truly believe it's because we did the 100 things. And we can actually see the things we didn't do. He can sometimes show a bit of fear. So, for example, we didn't introduce him to anybody wearing a bright yellow fluorescent jacket. And now if he sees these men with big yellow fluorescent jackets, he does bark at them because he's not sure what they are. I will include a link to 2 lists of puppy socialization suggestions. And I would say print them out and tick them off as you've done them and try to figure out how you can achieve them. There were some things on the list that we simply couldn't achieve. So the idea is introduce them to somebody with a beard, somebody in a wheelchair, to children, to different surfaces of floors, to trains, to buses, to crowded streets, to people that wear glasses, to old people, to bold people, to drunk people. This is what we were like, how are we going to find drunk people in a couple of weeks, you know. I've just inserted a random bit of footage here of Watson's first walk as a puppy, because I wanted to add in a little bit that I forgot to say, and something that I think is really important is, if you can at all, take your dog to, or your puppy to, a puppy class. Everybody that I know that's taken their dog to a puppy class has learned so much from it, and it gives the dog confidence around other dogs, but it also teaches them how to behave in a big group of dogs. And because they're in a big group of dogs, you will never have the worry that your dog will be scared around other dogs, because they meet every type of breed, every size, every temperament. And Watson's first class, he wouldn't come out from under the chair, but we went back, and within 3 weeks he was just having an absolute ball. And I think it's one of the best things we did for him was go to that class. Also, dog walking and daycare will have the same benefits, but not with the training. So that's it for my advices. I'm sure I could go on for days about other things, you know, more specifics that you should do. If there's any particular videos anybody wants, if you are getting a puppy, then let me know. You know, I can do a video on to crate or not to crate, that kind of thing. But what I would say is that be prepared to work your ass off in the first year, and don't get disheartened if it seems like it's not resulting in anything. For example, recall takes a long time, and what will happen is your dog will seem like he's got it, and then he'll completely forget it, and it seems like you need to retrain. It seems like he's like, huh, what do you mean come, you know? And we've had to work very hard to get his recall as good as it is. From playing games in the house, we play hide and seek, Watson come, you know, from one to the other, and we'd had to repeat that when he'd forgotten it. But you do work very hard in that first year, and then you start to reap the benefits from then onwards, and it gets better and better and better. And now we are constantly being told what a well-behaved dog we have, and like I said, he's so confident, and he's just, we're so proud of him. And I think a lot of it, there is obviously personality involved in that, but a lot of it is the training that we did in that first year. We both my husband and I worked very hard on his training. If you have any questions, let me know. If you are getting a new puppy, please take videos and put them up on YouTube. You can make your own channel and you don't need to show anybody. You can make it unlisted and show me, because I would love to see it. I have videos of Watson from zero, from when we got him, well not zero, but from the day we brought him home. I've got videos for that first week, the second week, the third week, etc, etc. So feel free to check them out. He was so cute. And yeah, like I said, if you've got any questions, ask. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck. Let me know what you're getting and when, and I'm so excited for you. You're just going to have so much fun. I will speak to you again soon.